Paul Finebaum says, quote, about Tennessee, my opinion is very high. That's just based on talking to people and not seeing very much. I think that's all you can really do. And spring coaches are smart. They know they have more to lose by playing players sometimes and running plays when they do. But I really think this is a much deeper program than it was a year ago. Let me start with that. Agree or disagree? Despite losing two receivers, a playmaking tight end, a quarterback, what would have been the biggest name on the defense this time of a year ago, is Tennessee deeper than it was this time a year ago?
Yeah, I think there's no question they're deeper. The skill positions may not be as good, but there's no doubt they're deeper.
Okay. Now,
think about it this way, Dave, because you've talked consistently all the time about how the 99 team was better than the 98 team. I think the 99 team was deeper. I think the 98 team, though, there were certain skill spots where the starter that was lost, you just couldn't replace. The question, that's where the 2022 team may be. 2023 is going to be deeper, but the starters that you lost from 2022 may be impossible to replace. The Darnell Wrights, the Hendon Hookers, people like that.
Okay. 4 Downs brought to you by AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Go to AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Best service, best prices in real estate in the Knoxville area. He will take care of you. What the H brought to you today by AndyMasonRealEstate.com. He's my realtor. He should be yours. Now, Finebaum did refer to Hendon Hooker as being a significant loss. He said, quote, now having said that, you have two great wide receivers that are gone. Are the ones that are there now fill the bill? You lost a quarterback that nobody could have predicted and nobody did predict. So that's really what they face. Here's the other thing that I think we gloss over too quickly. And that is that Hendon Hooker was just a great quarterback. He was more than that. He was a great leader. So if you want to go back over the history of great leaders and their individual leadership abilities, I would say Peyton Manning putting together the offseason workouts. I would say T. Martin having the confidence of his players, of his teammates to go out there and play in 98, 99. I would say Casey Clausen on the road, being able to win on the road was a big deal. Quarterbacks have different leadership capabilities, and I thought that Hendon Hooker's was a belief that Tennessee would be better than the outside noise said, and they don't have that this year. I think we gloss over that a little too easily, Caleb. I think that needs to be taken into account. We don't know that Joe Milton or Nico is going to be the guy that's going to step in and rally the troops when they need to be rallied, and that's overlooked too easily, in my opinion.
I agree partially, which is that leadership intangibles with quarterbacks is very underrated. You see it all the time. You see a lot of times you'll see in the NFL, you'll hear, oh, this quarterback has so much more help than this quarterback. And a lot of times it's, no, the quarterback's leadership intangibles. These players just want to play harder for that quarterback in that moment. You see that all the time throughout. You've seen it in college. You've covered quarterback controversies where players simply play better when another quarterback's in the game because they trust that guy more. I think that I don't think that's going to be as much of a problem with Joe Milton. Everything I've heard and everything I'm sure you've heard is that the players love Joe Milton.
Yes.
Like they really like him. And it seems like they're ready to ride or die for Milton. And let's be honest, it had to resonate with a lot of them that when Milton lost his starting job, it's never easy to lose your starting job. Milton lost his starting job and stayed loyal to the program, loyal to Hendon Hooker in last year during the Jeremy Banks and Hooker fight. Who's the one that stepped in on behalf of Hooker? That was Joe Milton that did that. And I think that resonates significantly with a lot of the players on the team that even if I don't think Joe Milton is going to be Hendon Hooker, he doesn't have Hooker's accuracy. He's got issues throwing it downfield. I don't think he's as good of it. I don't care what he does this year. He's not going to be as good of an NFL draft prospect as Hendon Hooker. But I do think he has Hendon Hooker's leadership qualities. I'm going to give him that much.
And about Joe, you don't think Joe Milton has any chance of being? I think Joe Milton could be a better draft prospect.
He might be drafted higher, the same way Anthony Richardson is going to be drafted higher. But I have much less faith in Joe Milton in the NFL than I do Hendon Hooker because there were some severe limitations to Joe Milton's game.
Okay, I agree with that. But as far as the draft prospect, if I'm Joe Milton and I'm watching Anthony Richardson, I'm pretty jazzed that he could get that sort of attention. I mean, could he get drafted higher? Yes. Could he be a more coveted prospect that Hendon Hooker? Yes. Would that be stupid? Yes.
Yeah, that's where I meant. That's the third part. It's stupid that he would be higher because I think Hendon Hooker has a much better NFL future than Joe Milton does, honestly. The only thing I will say, and I'm not going to cast aspersions on Anthony Richardson. I don't know. But I will say that I believe half the battle with quarterbacks is intangibles. And even if Joe Milton doesn't have the accuracy, he does have the intangibles. I think he's a really, similar to Hooker, I think he's a really good dude and a mentally tough dude and a hard worker, and he'll do what he has to do to get better wherever he
And then
goes.
we had somebody ask a question, just curious, how did y'all find out Banks was trying to fight Hooker and that Joe stepped in? Well, that was reported by us at the time, but also in addendum to that, it was reported that Jeremy Banks had missed a Monday practice. So, I mean, that was bad as well. So what was he ultimately suspended for? I mean, it could be either, both, all the above, but that was pretty common knowledge. And at that point, Joe Milton stepped in when Jeremy Banks apparently tried to create an issue with Hendon Hooker. But
And by the way, we should also point out Josh Heupel was asked about that in the press conference, and Heupel didn't answer one way or the other, meaning it happened.
yes, well, and based off who I talked to, I was sure it happened no matter what. But Joe Milton is a different type of leader. Is he more of a raw leader? Does he? I mean, when Alabama misses that kick, that would have won the game, and you look to your leader, okay, that leader is now Joe Milton instead of Hendon Hooker, Caleb. And do you have the same inner belief? I don't think you, nor I, nor any player on that team can answer that you have the exact same belief you had last year with Hendon Hooker.
No, because you have to prove that on the field. I mean, I guess leadership in terms of the qualities, you're right. I mean, it's leadership in terms of the qualities, I would have Milton on Hooker's level. That Alabama game last year came about because Hendon Hooker had proven himself in multiple clutch situations already. Just 3 weeks earlier, he had thrown that overtime touchdown pass to Cedric Tillman against Pittsburgh to win that game when there were so many mistakes in the second half of that game. Remember, Tennessee tried their best to give it away, and Hooker runs for a touchdown, holding penalty, called back. Very next play, he throws a touchdown pass. I think Hooker, there was a belief that you knew he could do this. You don't know that Joe Milton can dictate a 15-second drive for a field goal. But I do think he can at least has the respect of his teammates the way Hendon Hooker did. Now, the respect as far as a gamer, we don't know yet. I mean, this is the guy that ran out of bounds with no seconds left on the clock. And that's a big red flag.
Yeah, it's still a red flag to me and still factors into my decision. I know people think that I'm all pro Nico, and maybe I am, but
you're also Joe Milton for Heisman, so we know.
Yeah, I just have trouble getting that out of my head, the jumping out of bounds. And then you got a guy standing there like
Ia Male Ava.
Ia Male Ava. Somebody got onto me at the message board again. So what do you think about Paul Finebaum being high on Tennessee? I mean, he is a Tennessee alum. I do think he knows how to press buttons in different fan bases. And just your thoughts on Paul Finebaum.
I want to hear some of the Alabama callers call into his radio show today after hearing he was high on Tennessee. You got an impression for me, Dave? I love your impressions. I'm an Alabama caller.
If I do an Alabama caller, somebody will get mad, but it just sounds a little like this. I don't know what my impression would be of an Alabama caller.
You know the callers I'm talking about, though.
Yeah, no, I know the ones. I think it's significant. I mean, to be honest, I mean, everybody knows this, that Paul Finebaum is an alum. He also is an alum of the SEC, and he knows that the SEC is better when Tennessee is better. So it would behoove no one to come out and say, which wouldn't even be true, that Tennessee's not going to be any good and fall off the face of the earth this year.
Yeah, I think Paul Finebaum, I think his take is right. I think that Paul Finebaum has largely had a good pulse on Tennessee the past 6-7 years. Paul Finebaum made the point when the whole Schiano debacle happened. He made the point that I made and that a lot of people were making that they missed, which was the issue was not the issue. The whole issue with the Schiano hire was Tennessee waited way too long to fire Butch Jones. And by the time they had fired Butch Jones, the coaches they wanted, i.e. Chip Kelly, Dan Mullen, had already been negotiating with other schools. So everybody at Tennessee was hoping for a John Gruden that wasn't going to come, and John Gruden was never going to come. And I think that's why that whole disaster happened. He's had a pretty good pulse, particularly since he got picked up by ESPN all those years ago. He's gone more national. I mean, remember when he was just in Birmingham doing the Alabama show when
it was basically Alabama was good or bad and Auburn was good or bad, and you play both sides against each other.
Exactly. Where people felt safe to call in and admit that they had poisoned the trees at Toomer's Corner.
Well, just total coincidence. 2 weeks ago, I'd explained that to my son because he went to Auburn to see a friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost an unbelievable story when you actually start to go through it. That he called a syndicated show and said, "By the way, poison the trees, huh?"
Yeah.
I mean, is that not hard to believe that still happened?
It is insanely. I mean, it's incredible to believe that I agree. I can't believe that it happened either. Like that was, and he was all because he was mad because someone put a Cam Newton jersey on the Bear Bryant statue after Auburn beat Alabama. Like,
well, the reason is because he's a village idiot.
Yes.
I mean, let's not make excuses for him. The guy is an idiot.
That same year, I don't know if you remember this. Remember when Alabama and LSU played for the national title game? It was a bad year for Alabama fans. But that exact same year, about 10 months later, there was an LSU fan drunk and passed out before the game.
Stop right there. There's an LSU fan drunk and passed out?
In New Orleans, no less.
In New Orleans? What the H?
Well, an Alabama fan thought it would be a good idea, I kid you not, to go on camera, pull his pants down, and put his stuff on top of the LSU fan's face. Which, by the way,
I remember that. Not that I need to.
That is sexual assault, straight up. By
Yeah,
any reasonable definition.
Yeah, that's highly frowned upon and illegal.